I recently posted a video showing 10 years of daily photos, and I got a lot of requests for a video on my technique for aligning all of those photos. This is a walkthrough of that process. I use Adobe Premiere, but I'm sure there are similar features in whatever video editing software you have available. We're not doing anything fancy here. So start a new project, name it. I'm going to call it Dailies. Put it where you want it. Set the sequence settings as you like them. I like 30 frames a second, a 16:9 ratio, audio at 44:1. You'll probably want one audio track for your music or voiceover. I'm not going to be working with audio in this video. You do want to set yourself up with 3 video tracks. We'll be using all of them. Name your default sequence. I'm going to keep it just at sequence 1 and create. Now go to Edit, Preferences, General. In the General tab is an option for the default duration of still photos. I like every photo to last 1 frame, so I get 30 days of pictures per 1 second of video, but you can adjust this based on your needs. The advantage of setting the default is so that you know every photo is going to, by default, take the same amount of screen time without you having to manually adjust the duration of every photo. Okay. The first step for alignment is to choose a reference photo from your collection of dailies. Choose one photo that you think best represents the alignment you want for the other photos. Once you've chosen your photo, I'm going to use this one here, drag it into the project library. And take that, drag it into the timeline in video track 2. Now we want to fine-tune our reference frame. Go to File, New, Transparent Video, the same sequence settings that you have, and you'll find that now in the library. Grab that, drag it onto the top layer of video. Now, there's no video here, but it does allow us to put effects on that video layer, and we want the grid effect. Search for that, drag it onto the clip. Now we have a grid. Go to the effects controls for that grid, turn the border down so it's very thin, and lock that layer in place. Let's zoom in so we can see the misalignment of our reference frame. This actually isn't too bad, but we can fix it because we have the grid to use. Now we can rotate and move the position. So this one's actually pretty well aligned. Not bad. Now, the first thing I'm going to do with this is move the anchor point of the picture over to the center of one of the pupils. Now I will move the whole thing back to roughly center. There we go. And the advantage of having the anchor point at one of the pupils is that your rotational corrections now become very easy to do because the anchor point is that axis of rotation. And with that, we are done with the grid layer, so we can just shut it off or delete it if you prefer. Drag and drop some of the next daily photos in the sequence into your project library so you can start working on them. Mine are dated and listed in chronological order, so when I drag and drop them into the timeline, they're going to stay in that order. So drag and drop your next photos into the bottommost video layer. We have to be able to see both pictures at the same time, so drag your reference frame's opacity down to about 50%. And lock that track so we can't mess anything up with it. Now when you double click on the preview window, you'll open up the controls for the first frame you want to work with. Zoom in again, and we'll do what we did before in the motion controls and adjust the anchor point to match one of the pupils. move the position back to roughly center or aligned to the reference frame that's laid over the top of it. Adjust the position, the scale, the rotation, get it pretty close. And this is where we encounter a problem. Once you get really close to perfect alignment, it's hard to tell which pixels you're seeing are part of the reference frame and which are part of the active photo. If I toggle, this is pretty good, but we can get more precise and do it in a way that is less of a strain in the eyes, and that's a huge boon if you're doing hundreds of these photos in a sitting. So unlock your reference track, find the invert effect, and drag it onto that clip. The reason, as you can see, is as you blend a color palette with its inversions, the colors cancel out. And when you hit a 50-50 blend of the original and the inverted, you get a flat gray. And because your daily photos are so similar, you can use this to match one photo to the next. The inverted layer more clearly highlights the difference between two photos, and that's really all you want to see. Lock your reference frame and start fine-tuning again. You can see these coronas showing a very slight misalignment between the reference frame and the frame I'm working with. So you can move these and fine-tune your alignment. Hold Control as you drag for a fine-tune movements. And there. You're never going to get a perfect gray because no photo is perfectly identical to another, but you'll get really close. Like my glasses fall slightly differently on my face each day, and you can see that with this contrast. If you stabilize around just the pupils and think of everything else as secondary, though, you're going to get the best results overall. Now, for a comparison, unlock your reference track. Turn off the inversion, put the opacity all the way back up, and let's toggle. Considering my head is just in a slightly different position in these two photos, this is pretty good. This is about as good as it's going to get. Now put everything back, turn the inversion back on, lock it, extend first, so we can see it over the next frame we're working on. Make it visible. So this is pretty far off the mark. So what I like to do is to take the settings from the previous photo, Control A, Control C, highlight the next picture, Control V to paste. This gets us closer. It's not perfect, but it gives you a really solid starting point. Again, zoom in, adjust your anchor point, the anchor over one of the pupils, adjust scale and rotation. I'm holding Control so I get really small movements. Great, this looks good. So now I'm going to turn the reference frame off so we can see where the two photos that we processed fall with one another. These are the two that we just aligned. That is pretty good. You can see how they match up about as best as they can considering the difference in the head position. Just do this 3,648 more times and you have yourself a 10-year time-lapse video. It's tedious, yes, but you don't have to buy any stabilization software, and this manual method is going to be more accurate until stabilization algorithms have matured a little bit. You're not going to need this video in another 10 years time. Anyway, I hope that helped. Please feel free to ask questions if you have any, and I'll do my best to help. Also, I would love to see what you guys all come out with, so please send me a link to your own daily photo video when you're done.